welcome to Wellness Unplugged, the podcast where we speak frankly about the real, the raw, and the often uncomfortable truths around mental health and emotional well-being. I'm Lesley, your host, and today we're tackling a quiet epidemic, one that's so common it often goes unnoticed. We're talking about emotional suppression. That act of pushing down feelings that seem too much, too inconvenient, or just too messy to bring to the surface. Now let me ask you, when was the last time you swallowed your tears in a meeting, laughed off disappointment, or said, "I'm okay," when you were anything but? You're not alone, we've all done it. In fact, many of us have made it a lifestyle. But here's the uncomfortable truth. What we suppress does not disappear. It just waits quietly until it shows up in ways we didn't expect. Today, we're going to explore what emotional suppression actually is, why we do it, the toll it takes on our mental, emotional, and physical health, and most importantly, how we can begin to shift slowly, gently, towards emotional honesty and resilience. Let's start with the definition. Emotional suppression is the deliberate or automatic inhibition of emotional expression. Wow, that's a lot to take in. That includes facial expressions, tone of voice, tears, body language. In fact, all the ways our emotions naturally show themselves. Now, suppression is different from repression. Repression is unconscious. We literally don't know we're avoiding something. Suppression, on the other hand, can be conscious. We choose not to express what we feel, or semi-conscious, where we internalizing the choice so deeply it feels automatic. Psychologically, suppression often serves a purpose. It can buy us time to process complex emotions, help us function during emergencies, or maintain professionalism. But when it becomes a pattern, a way of life, if you will, it leads to emotional disconnection, psychological tension, and eventually health problems. So why do we suppress? Why do so many of us struggle to simply feel what we feel? Well, it almost always starts in childhood. Clinical psychologist Dr. Susan David explained that many children are taught to see emotions as good or bad. Anger, well, that's bad. Sadness, weak. Joy and politeness, really good. And from this binary, we begin to edit ourselves. We're told, calm down, you're overreacting. Stop crying, that's enough now. You're too sensitive. And we internalize these messages. And over time, we begin to believe that our emotions are problems to solve, not messages to listen to. Here's the psychology. Suppression becomes a form of emotional self-regulation that prioritizes external approval over internal truth. It's rooted in survival. If expressing emotion results in rejection, ridicule, or shame, the brain adapts. It learns safety lies in silence. Over time, the emotional brain, the limbic system, we've talked about this before, is overridden by the prefrontal cortex, our rational thinking brain. That's useful, sure, but when we overdo it, we disconnect from the emotional signals that actually help us to understand ourselves, others, and our needs. Psychologist Dr. Bessel van der Kolk says it plainly. The body keeps the score. Suppressed emotions don't just disappear. They settle in the body, in our muscles, in our gut, our breath, and even our immune system. Let's look at this more closely. Number 1, somatic symptoms. Chronic fatigue, digestive problems, migraines. Emotional suppression has been linked to increased cortisol levels and chronic inflammation. Mental health consequences. Studies have found that emotional suppression correlates with higher rates of anxiety, depression, and even alexithymia, the inability to identify and express emotions. Suppression may keep the peace externally, but internally it creates chaos. Relationship difficulties. Emotional suppression leads to emotional unavailability. We become difficult to connect with, even when we're desperate to be understood. We may appear stoic, detached, or even cold, not because we don't care, but because we've numbed ourselves for so long, we don't quite know how to show we care. Behavioral fallout. Emotions don't vanish, they get displaced. This is where you see these passive-aggressive behaviors, unexpected outbursts, or numbing through food, alcohol, overwork, or social media scrolling. It's not weakness, it's wiring. So how do we start to feel again without becoming overwhelmed? First and foremost, gentleness. This is not about forcing yourself to cry or relive some deep trauma. It's about building emotional literacy, slowly learning to name, feel, and tolerate your emotional experiences. So how do you do that? Well, number one, name what you feel. As Dr. Dan Siegel put it, name it to tame it. When you label your emotions, I feel disappointed, I feel threatened, I feel left out, you activate the prefrontal cortex and decrease limbic activity. You literally calm the brain. Practice emotional check-ins. Once a day, just stop and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Not what should I be feeling? What am I feeling? Let it be messy, let it be contradictory. After all, that's just part of being human. Develop emotional outlets. Counseling is one route, but so is private journaling, creative practices, support groups, mindfulness, movement, or simply honest conversations with someone safe. The key is expression, not suppression. Learn emotional tolerance. Suppression is often about fear that we won't survive the emotion. But emotions are waves. They rise, crest, and pass. When we allow the wave, just for 90 seconds even, we build resilience. We realize, I can survive this feeling. I don't have to always run. Inner reparenting. Speak to yourself the way a loving caregiver would. If your inner voice has been critical, dismissive, or even shaming, it's time to rewrite the script. Rather say, it's okay to feel this. I've got this. So here's what I want you to remember. Emotions are not the enemy. They are the language of your nervous system. They tell you what matters, what hurts, and what needs to change. When you suppress them, you mute that wisdom. The goal is not emotional chaos. It's emotional clarity. And here's the irony. The more we allow ourselves to feel, the less overwhelmed we become. We stop fearing our inner life. We start trusting it. If you've spent years or decades suppressing how you really feel, please know this. There's no shame in that. You were protecting yourself the only way you knew how. But now, maybe it's time to try a new way, a kinder way, a more honest way. So today, don't try and unpack everything. Just notice one feeling. Name it, welcome it. That's how we start. If this podcast resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me at info@lesleyharvey.co.za. And I'll leave you with this quote from Carl Jung. What you resist not only persists, but grows in size. Thank you for tuning in to Wellness Unplugged. Until next time, unplug, recharge, and remember, your wellness matters more than you think.
The radio station you can't live without. This is your radio.
This is South Coast Radio.